Hey everyone, welcome to the Incubator podcast. I'm your co-host, Darren Boyd.
And this is Satbir Sran. Really excited to bring to you today Observo.ai. We have Ricky Arora, the co-founder and COO of Observo.ai. Now, what is Observo.ai? It is a exciting new platform for observability, AI-powered observability pipeline to be exact. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I do want to talk about the fact that this is a emerging startup. It was at the recent GISEC conference in the Middle East. Observo was honored to be one of the most honored or innovative startups that came about. Ricky was there. He just recently presented there. But again, Ricky, without taking away your thunder, please tell us more about yourself, and then we'll get into Observo.
Yeah, Darren and Satbir, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So real quick about myself. So Ricky Arora, I'm the co-founder at Observo.ai. We are an AI-powered observability pipeline solution. We were founded in late 2022. My background has been product leadership roles at a variety of different companies, mostly startups. So before Observo, I was running data security products at Rubrik, which recently went public. Super excited about that. Before that, I was VP of product at Synac, which is a vulnerability management startup. And prior to that, I used to head up Oracle's identity management and cloud security product group, about $1 billion in business, thousands of customers globally. And prior to that, I've built a variety of different security and AI solutions as well. Observo was really excited to be at GISEC. It's essentially Middle East RSA. This conference was in Dubai. We were one of the presenters as well as had a booth. They had an event, very interesting event called CyberStars, which was judged by CISOs and local security leaders. And, we were honored to be judged one of the most innovative companies out of about 130 plus startups that participated. Overall, great conference. A very buzzing cybersecurity ecosystem with a lot of new technology and innovative projects that are taking off out there.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and we're so excited. We spent time together, and we really appreciate what you've built. But maybe you could take us through why you've built what you have, because almost every single capability and feature you've introduced, we have seen the pain and we've seen the need. But it is amazing how since late 2022, as you said, you have packed so much capability into an observability pipeline. But why an observability pipeline to start with? What did you see that was not being addressed in the market? And then I really want to start to unpack some of those really advanced features that customers are absolutely going to appreciate, because this is very, very different than what's on the market today. Maybe you could walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, Darren, that's a great question. So let me perhaps go over the origin story. So both me and Gurjeet, and we share the same last name. We're not brothers or whatever, but we ended up working together at Rubrik. I was on the product leadership side, running data security products as well as the core platform. And Gurjeet and team, used to run essentially our data platform, and we were managing a 20 terabyte telemetry data lake out there with all the data being streamed within that data lake. So we were looking at essentially multiple platforms to solve some observability as well as security challenges. We went to a bunch of different vendors, got quotes in millions from all of them, and we took one of those quotes to our CTO, and that's probably the shortest C-suite meeting I've ever been on, which was like, over my dead body, we will never implement this. Go figure something out. So what the team did was we went back to the drawing board. We figured out, the insight we had was that we have all this data, but not all of this is equal, right? There is only about 20-30% of this 20 petabyte data set that actually has value. So we did some work, that became the genesis of Observo. We realized this is a problem that's industry-wide. Everyone is struggling with the data. So, that kind of is the origin story. We started Observo with a mission to solve this huge telemetry data problem. More and more services are being built, more and more infrastructure is being built, mobile, IoT, AI now, that's generating a ton of telemetry data, right? AKA logs, metrics, traces, you name it. Historically, telemetry has been the easiest API for developers to integrate. And what they love is to generate all of this data, right? So that data has been growing, but the architectures have not been keeping pace. Typically, what happens is you take this data, you dump all of this raw data into some sort of observability platform or a SIM if it's a security team, and those costs really spike up because the data is growing 30-50% year over year. Given we have this unique insight that you can actually pre-process that data and really extract what's valuable and index that particular data set instead of storing and indexing entire 100%, right? So that's the core problem we solve. The way we solve that is using machine learning and new constructs. Typically what happens is you take this data, you store it, you index it, and indexing, mind you, is a 30, 40-year-old technology. So you index that data, and that gives you some unique insights, that gives you the ability to generate alerts, define some rules and policies, etc. So what we have done is we have used machine learning to essentially classify what's data is of value and what is pure just noise. What we do is we take the valuable data, we still send it to your existing observability platform or a SIM like a Splunk or a Datadog or a New Relic or one of those tools, while all the raw data set goes to a cheap storage, where we create a data lake in highly compressible Parquet format. And the power of the Parquet format is that the data is instantly queryable. So you still have access to all of that data. You can query it for audit compliance, threat hunting, forensic purposes. And you also have the ability to replay that data if you need be, right? So let's say, unfortunately, you're hit with a Log4j or one of those. You can always go back and redirect that data back into your observability or SIM platform to do those investigations. So essentially, what we are doing is we are helping you keep all of that data, all the raw data for compliance, forensic, all of those purposes, but we are only giving you the data that really matters for real-time scenarios, whether those are reliability, system performance, or security.
So, Ricky, you said a lot of important things there, but I want to key in on, let's call it the differentiation aspects of Observo, right? Because the marketplace has some aspects of pipelines out there that reduce the ingest and things of that nature. But what I heard from you is really the differentiation and the value of Observo comes out in that ML AI powered engine of insights where you're gleaning data, call it pre-indexing, because indexing, as you mentioned, is call it a 30, 40-year-old technology, as you stated. So you are saying on the front end, let me glean that information, pertinent insights that would be valuable to a consumer. And while everything is routed to your low-cost storage tier and everything like that, you're also making that data more readily accessible back to an individual, rehydrating it, if you will, without I'll call it a cost burden, perhaps. Do I have that right?
Yes, you do. And the key differentiation compared to some of the existing technologies is it's sort of back to the machine learning aspect of it, right? Because using machine learning, we are able to automate a lot of this because truly the way the problem space looks like is you have all these generators of all the telemetry data, right? That typically tends to be developers and engineers who are writing the code. And then you have the consumers who tend to be SRE teams and DevOps teams and security engineers and SecOps teams, right? The folks who are emitting this data and the folks who are consuming this data are completely different teams, right? The folks who are consuming this data don't have all the insights into what's being generated, right? So what we do is we help them give that insight, right? We basically take this data, which kind of looks gibberish at first look, and we really make sense out of that data. So using machine learning, we do things like pattern extraction and clustering, etc. And based on that, we're able to give insights, right? So really going back to the original track, the key differentiation then becomes that I don't have to figure out what's in my data. I don't have to write scripts. I don't have to write code to actually filter out the noise. It's a much more autonomous technology where we're able to surface those insights because everything is in the data, right? Just by analyzing that data and using those machine learning models we have built. Additionally, this data keeps changing, so it's not static, right? So every month, every quarter, new services are being rolled out, new updates are being done, new versions are being deployed, new upgrades are being done on infrastructure. So that data keeps changing, and the models, the machine learning models, allow us to keep track of those changes and make relevant updates or surface relevant insights and recommendations as necessary. So the final thing I'll say on this is, the level of optimizations we have been able to realize are far superior. So we typically realize, anywhere from 70 to 90% optimization in the telemetry data without losing any context in the data set.
Yeah, that's boy, I need to spend some time on this because anybody that's been in this problem, there's so much gravity to what you just said. Sabir and I, on many engagements, we spend a lot of time doing exactly what you talked about, which is going to the producer team, trying to understand the context, building everything manually, as you just suggested, with scripts, with processors, exporters, collectors. We do all of this. We build all the regex patterns. We build all the intelligence we want, and then we send it off to the consumers. And we play this go between, and that's a forever chasing proposition. And so and to your point, and it changes so quickly. And so it's like,
Right.
if I start painting the Golden Gate Bridge, when I get to the end, I've got to come all the way back and start again. It's never ending. And so what you've done there with your sentiment engine, I think is so crucial to people being able to use data, like you said, massive reductions, but usable data with context. The other piece that I would share that I think you do and do very well is you allow us to operate more efficiently. We can put thresholds on things. We can look for anomalous patterns. It's not just, hey, I found some sensitive data or some other pattern. It's, hey, I'm seeing a spike in this type of volume. It wasn't there before. This is something you should look at. You can integrate with so many important integrations, whether it's PagerDuty or ServiceNow, whatever you want from a tooling perspective. So you are also introducing this very mature operational capability in this platform. And so I just want to do an underscore on this. That is a massive problem in the industry today with the types of volume we deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And that has been a big requirement from our enterprise customers as well, where they get blindsided, right? Because again, there are so many sources that are generating this data. There is a lot of different data streams coming in, and they are only increasing, right? So the ability to baseline the data and then basically say, hey, this is what's normal, right? And anything that's a spike or a drop is anomalous behavior, right? So being able to let them know that, hey, we have just detected this, we see 4 as kind of the baseline, but we have just seen 8, right? And something might be going on. It might be where, inadvertently someone wrote debug, introduced debug code, and now we are generating much more data than we used to, right? So numerous use cases here. The primary one we are seeing is, especially for security teams, if there is a data drop, now they're completely blindsided, right? Imagine there's no data coming from your firewall, and you have no idea what's going on out there, right? So being able to generate an alert, let the SOC know that, hey, we have detected a drop, and you might want to look at this and fix this in the pipeline, or upstream is very crucial to our customers. Additionally, being able to look at the sentiment of the data, right? I go back to what I said earlier. Everything is within the data, all the context, everything is within the data. So being able to glean that insight and using machine learning to say, hey, this is the context, and this is the context of context, and now we have detected something that might be negative, right? That might be a warning, but it's a warning that's building up to an error. So what we are able to do is we are able to do some early detection, and the value prop there being the ability to detect issues before they happen, right? That's what the teams are struggling to do. So being able to inject that sentiment both at the pattern level as well as at the individual raw data level, and then then enabling our users to take that data and do some intelligent analysis out of it is definitely a big value proposition that a lot of our users derive a ton of benefit from.
This value seems to keep building here, Ricky. The more you share with us here. So, like you said, is that sentiment and that precursor of data or insights before an event occurs is, further, I'll use the word shifting left again, right? Is if you're an SRE and you're depending on your traditional observability tools, like you said, Dynatrace, Datadog, pick your tool out there, and as an SRE engineer, you're looking at some sort of telemetry data. You have Observo also potentially beating you to the punch, or maybe even beating these other tools to the punch. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that you do away with it. It's just additive to the context. Hey, something's about to occur. Something's going to happen. You should look over here. And now you can use, your said tool to go investigate and go further into it. Do I have that part right as well?
You do, yes, absolutely. So, and the real challenge there that teams face is alert fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of false positives that are being generated, and I have no idea what I should look at as a SRE, right? Or if it's security as a SecOps engineer. So that's really the problem we are solving with this. We are doing some intelligent analysis. We are introducing the sentiment. We are introducing, the indicators of anomaly, and we are telling you that, hey, we have detected something that you might want to look at, which is building up to be an issue or an error, right?
Yeah.
And given we can do this in stream before all the indexing happens, it's real fast, right? Because the underlying technology has been built in Rust. It's very efficient at scale. It's super fast. Within milliseconds, we are able to detect these kind of things. Enrich the data and tell you what's up in your data.
And just going further a little bit on this observability theme, Ricky, is many clients are using increasingly open source platforms, tools, technologies, right? So when we talk about things like open telemetry versus traditional agents, that to you is no different. Data is data coming across, be it from an OTel collector or agent versus anything else, right? Is there additional things that, from an integration standpoint, where Observo also builds differently or adds greater value?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, we are agnostic to the different agents, collector sources that enterprises use, right? Because there are a variety of them, and enterprises, one enterprise can have multiple of them, right? Depending on the team, depending on the maturity, etc. So we integrate with the likes of OpenTelemetry, which we are seeing a huge movement to OpenTelemetry, especially for metrics and traces, and I think the log piece is catching up as well. We integrate with the likes of Logstash, FluentBit, FluentD. One of the core principles of Observo has been that we don't want to cause disruption, right? We don't want to cause rip and replace. So we're not going to come in and say, hey, displace all the hundreds of agents you're running today. We're going to come in and say, hey, we can leverage the current agents and collectors you already have, whether that's a FluentBit, whether that's a Splunk heavy forwarder, or an Elastic agent or a Datadog agent. So we integrate with all of them. We'll take up the kind of the heavy lifting of parsing that data, and then taking that data and treating that data, and then emitting the data in a format that your downstream system is expecting, right? So for instance, if we have integrated with Splunk Heavy Forwarder, we can take that data, we parse that data. We have built-in parsers for all the standard formats. We use Grok and some AI capability to also parse custom formats, especially when it comes to application logs and services logs and stuff. But the cool thing is that once we emit the data from Observo, that data is going to be in the Splunk compatible format, or an Elastic compatible format, or a Datadog compatible format. So we take care of all of that heavy lifting for our users, so they don't have to go do all this plumbing work. Additionally, what we have seen is that enterprise especially, right? They love their tool. They love Splunk. They love Datadog. They love New Relic, right? They love the tool. What they don't love is that the pricing does not scale essentially with the value, right? So being able to offer that capability where they're paying for the service, but they're also deriving proportionate value is what customers love, right? Because in most cases, we don't see that they're ready to rip off a Splunk, or they're ready to rip off a Datadog and go to a different solution. So being able to make their existing data better and being able to make their existing solution and platform better is a huge win for them.
Yeah, I like some of those design tenets as well. Like even the decision to store in Parquet is a beautiful decision, and a lot of these are non-trivial decisions. But I like the fact that you came from a practitioner's point of view. you felt the pain yourself, and then designed a solution accordingly. So we appreciate all of those elements you just spoke of, OTel, Parquet, and some of these native integrations. Now, how easy is it for a customer to get started? Because we have seen solutions that, and this goes back to our earlier statement, we've seen solutions that are really heavy to get moving. We have to do all of those things we just talked about. We have to do them up front, and we have to be very purposeful about what we're doing along the way. How easy is it to engage with Observo, to start getting value day one? And if I do need to turn any levers and get in and start tuning anything, what does that experience look like as well?
Yeah, great question. The experience is purely magic. Jokes aside, but it's again, that has been a core sort of tenet for us, right? A design principle, because our team is composed of practitioners. Our team is composed of engineers who actually live this day in, day out, right? For instance, one of our founding engineers used to run log management and metrics management for Uber, and before that, Flipkart, which is the largest e-commerce company in India. But essentially, so deployment is really easy. It's Kubernetes based, so it's Helm charts, it's standard cloud formation stuff. The way this works is we have a worker plane, which essentially is a small Kubernetes cluster that gets deployed within the customer network, and we have a control plane that runs within our cloud. But the worker plane is essentially doing all the work, right? All the data is being processed locally within the customer's environment. We never take out log metric, any telemetry data, out to our cloud. And the control plane is essentially used for configuration, reporting, etc. We also have a flavor where we can deploy the worker plane and the control plane all in the customer's environment, whether that's a public cloud or on-premise. Think large banks, large e-commerce, government, highly regulated industries, etc. But coming back to the main point here, the deployment is super easy. It's very standard. It can be done using an existing Kubernetes infrastructure or a brand new infrastructure. We do support all the flavors of Kubernetes, whether that's EKS, AKS, or something like Tanzu. And given we are able to use machine learning to surface insights, the experience and the time to value is pretty quickly. What we've also done is, we have noticed that 80% of the data is being generated by 20% of the systems and resources out there, right? So top 5 firewalls, top 5 cloud infrastructure pieces, top 5 CDNs, top 5 OS systems, right? So if you look at the world from that perspective, it's that classic 80-20 rule. So what we have done is we have pre-built models for these top 5. In some cases, that looks like top 7, right? So let's say you have Windows infrastructure, plus you have Palo Alto firewall, you have Zscaler, right? So that's what a lot of our customers look like. Those models can be utilized to quickly configure what you want. They come with defaults, but you always have the ability to customize them, tailor them to your needs. But in that particular scenario, we can our customers can usually see optimizations happening within the first 2 or 3 days, right? Because those models are built in, the best practices have already been embedded. I can simply open up that best practice, and I can quickly configure, quickly tailor that best practice to my needs, right? If there are any differences or whatever. So the time to value has been a key thing for us. We have enterprises who have been able to get value pretty quickly. Now, having said that, there are large enterprises and there are more complexities there, right? So over there, what we have seen is in the first couple of weeks, and those enterprises are up and running with optimizations ranging anywhere from 60 to 80, 90%. Typically, what we do is our first goal is to come in, show you quick time to value with the first 40-50% of the optimization, which is really quick, and then there's sort of a long tail then, and it'll take about a week or so to get to that 70-80%. And part of that is the system learns from the data and start making more recommendations as we learn from that data, as we baseline data, etc.
Yeah, that's great. The as I think about this, it's the way your deployment options. I imagine, especially if I use the strict SaaS deployment model, obviously you handle all the scaling. I don't know if that means we have to separate push sources from pull sources and do a whole bunch of configuration on back pressure and some other things. Is that all stuff that we would leverage Observo's help with structuring this for our organization? Is that how it scales?
It does, yeah. So, for the SaaS deployment, right, we are deploying a small Kubernetes cluster. We have clear guidelines on, how the scaling looks like. So given it's written in Rust, super efficient, we are able to basically process about a terabyte per day using just one core, right? So what that means is, the performance and what it takes to run Observo.ai is actually is really efficient. Um, so now let's talk about the configuration in terms of pull and push sources, right? So pull sources, are easier because essentially you configure the integration, you define the token, and you have it running, right? For push sources, you still do the same configuration. You do have to make a change on the agent side to actually push to our endpoint, right? Instead of pushing to, let's say, a Splunk or a Datadog endpoint that you're pushing today. And on the destination side, as I said, with the large scale, there comes those elements, like the one you mentioned, back pressure and a few others, and we have clear guidelines on how to configure that. What we have seen is that that becomes more of a thing, especially with elastic shops, right? Elastic customers, because there's a lot of capability around back pressure and a lot of configuration around that, and we have done that with our customers. Our one of our largest customer today is an Elastic shop. We process 50 terabytes of data per day for them. And as you can imagine, there's some work that was required on the back pressure and on the integration with Elastic. So we work closely with customers. We have clear documentation on what needs to be done, in terms of indexes, et cetera, as well as the back pressure. But all that capability is built in, and we have clear documentation, clear guidelines on how to manage that.
Overall, Ricky, you've built a pretty compelling platform and product here. So, talking a little bit more about the company as well. So, you guys are on a direction towards Series A, if I'm not mistaken, right? Who are some of the VCs that are supporting Observo here?
Yeah, great question. And Satbir, thanks for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Coming from experts in the industry, it's a big badge of honor for us. So yeah, we are a seed-funded startup. We raised a seed round in late 22. It's still confidential, so it's still under the wraps. So I'm not at the liberty to talk about
No
who
worries.
funded us. It's one of the flagship VCs in Silicon Valley who funded us. We also raised some money from angels and industry experts. And we are on the path to raise a Series A, which will happen later this year, or early next year. And we are doing great. We have a ton of traction. We have large customers. A bunch of Fortune 500 customers, Global 2000 customers, as well as a bunch of mid-market customers as well, in North America as well as globally. And we are super jazzed, super pumped. The market opportunity is tremendous. We believe we are sort of in the early displacement cycle in the industry, right? So every 10, 12, 15 years, there's a technological shift. And we believe we are in sort of the year 1, year 2 of that big technological shift happening within this industry as well.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, compelling product as it stands. Are there other things that you're working on as far as the product roadmap as well that you can share for our audience? That would be great. If not, totally get it, because that's some of those things are confidential.
No, absolutely. That's a great question. So, a lot of work is going on, right? So today we are able to process logs, metrics really efficiently. So we're able to basically take the log data, optimize it, enrich it with things like sentiment, et cetera. We can do the same thing with metrics as well, essentially identify the cardinality and help you kind of reduce that cardinality. We are doing some additional work on traces right now. So being able to manage traces more efficiently as well. We have what I'll call as a V1 capability. We are now working towards a V2 capability. We have some customers in pilot for that. Integrations is the name of the game, so that keeps happening all the time. We have 100+ integrations right now, and we are constantly building additional ones as well as enhancing the ones we have today. What we're also working on is, so let me back up. So one of the key requirement we have heard from two things I will say from our customers and enterprises in general is it's still really hard to get insights, right? So if I'm a security leader and I want to know some information, I have to go send an email to my SOC team or my security team, and they will run some report somewhere. It'll take them a day to run that report and get that data, get that insight to me, number one. Number two, the challenge we are seeing is I have all this data. I have, a lot of alerts being generated. I have all this instrumentation. I'm using a platform, but it still takes a long time to figure out where the issue is and how to resolve that issue, right? AKA, how can anomaly detection be much more efficient, right? I've done all the toolings. I drank the AI ops Kool-Aid and I've done all that, but I'm still, I'm still behind the eight ball. I get to know of issues after they have happened, right? So those are the kind of the top two, higher level challenges we hear from customers all the time, from enterprises all the time. So we are building some really compelling capabilities in both of those areas. For insights, we are building out LLM-based query engine, which will be able to, essentially, it'll initially run on our data lake. Eventually, our goal is to extend that to other data sources as well. But using some of the new developments in Gen AI field, you'll be able to have more of a conversation when you're looking for insights and to derive those insights. And really, the goal is to make that faster, make some of that, really at your fingertips so you're able to get that information from the systems right away. Because again, all the data is still
Yeah.
there, right? There's also the use case of enabling more of, transitioning the level one and level two support out to non-engineers so engineers can focus on building the core platform and the core features and the roadmap, et cetera, right, at their respective organizations. So the Gen AI capability now makes it easier for a support a level one or a level two or level three support person to actually answer some questions for customers, et cetera. And for the second piece, which is the anomaly detection, we are enhancing our sentiment analysis-based capability to make it much more predictive than what it is today. So, being able to actually predict issues before they happen, so enterprises and users can take those actions and not be behind the eight ball, essentially, right? Kind of getting ahead of the curve, being able to be notified of issues much before they see it today, and then being able to resolve them in a much more efficient, kind of the faster fashion, right? So the ability to lower MTTI and MTTR is really what we're focused on there.
All very compelling here, Ricky. Not that I'm a product development expert or anything like that, but some of the things that you touched on triggered a thought. And Darren, feel free to weigh in here. You talked about the value to the security aspects of things, the integrations, things of that nature. What we're seeing out there is a desire from security organizations. The name of the game is anomaly detection, value to the SOC at the end of the day, or the operators there. So how do you make that accessible from a search perspective? But also, how do you standardize that? So we talked about OTel earlier from general mappings, but now there's OCSF, where organizations want to map all of these sources to OCSF. And in a way, I'm not saying it's subjective, but you have all of these sources. Now you have to catalog and then appropriately map some of these fields to have the right context. So is that a path that Observo is going to also, again, bridging all of these things together for our audience here, is that a path that you're on as well?
Absolutely. So we do have enrichment capabilities today. One of the most common use cases, as you guys have probably seen as well, is a known threat actor list, for instance. So enrich my data with a known threat actor, or enrich my data with IDs, cloud instance IDs, etc. Absolutely. So we always love to comply with all the standards in the industry, right? We strongly believe in that. We encourage that. For instance, we recently signed up for being a contributor to the OTel community as well. And absolutely, so that's something that's on our roadmap, essentially mapping all the different OCSF controls, and being able to enrich the data as that comes in for our customers and users is a priority for us.
Awesome. Well, Ricky, this was a very enlightening discussion, a very important product you have here, in my view, that is going to be impactful to many clients out there. I think Jacek was right in terms of thinking about you guys as one of the most innovative firms out there. We hope that you find much success, and we're looking forward to speaking with you and in future sessions, and as well as with our clients. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Darren and Satbir, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's my pleasure. I've seen your podcast and I always wanted to be on it. So, finally that happened today. So thanks so much. It's my pleasure. And it's really really my honor to be on the podcast. We are at RSA as well. So if you are there or if your audience is there, we'd love to meet them at the conference. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.